Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Keep It Open podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Mitchell.
And Mitchell, without further ado, is it rude?
All right, thanks, Aaron. Today for the Is It Rude question, the question is it rude to send your food back? So if you're in a restaurant and the food's not maybe not to par or has, some other thing wrong with it, I'm curious your thoughts on whether it's rude to send that back and ask for another one.
I think it's rude if, objectively, there's nothing wrong with the fucking food. If you're just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's exactly what you ordered.
If it's what you ordered and,
rude.
I don't know, you're just, nitpicking. Because I've worked in the restaurant industry, and, there are definitely customers that, they're just being assholes. They're just sending it back, for, I don't know, for one reason or another, but there's literally nothing wrong with the dish. Now,
yeah.
If there's something actually wrong with it, then no, I don't, I think some people might just be like, oh, well, I'll just eat it anyway. But listen, if you ordered the steak medium rare, and it comes out well done, yeah.
Let's go with that scenario. Let's say you order a medium rare.
Okay.
And then it comes out well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you send that back?
Oh, I'm sending that back. 10 times out of 10 times.
Okay.
Oh yeah. First of all, I will never eat a steak well done. Ever.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, that's not how you eat steak. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, and I don't even think that's rude. Listen, if I ordered it medium rare or rare, then that's that's how I placed my order. But if it comes out medium rare, and I'm like, this looks a little medium well to me, but it's clearly not, then you're being rude. You're being rude.
Right. Oh, see, that's a fine line to
issue.
There. I mean, it could just be the lighting in the restaurant.
That's true, but that's why I bring my grading card for beef. No, I'm just
oh, do you?
No, not at all. I don't even really eat steak. Not unless it's a really good cut. I'm going to a really nice restaurant. Because, dude, all the experiences I've had ordering a steak at something that's not a top tier restaurant or an occasion where I'm treating myself or whatever. It's generally just not great. I don't have very good experiences with steak.
Yeah. I mean, especially for what you're paying for it usually at these restaurants. That's just not my. I also don't eat a lot of steak out.
It's I think I'm probably
$50 bucks for a steak or something.
I'm gonna go with the cheeseburger. I feel
you can get 10 cheeseburgers, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I think for me the whole steak thing. Again, I don't really eat a lot of steak, but I think I'd send it back too, man.
Yeah,
I think I'd send it back. Yeah,
and I don't think it's rude. I don't think it's rude.
If it's drastically different, if it's that medium well versus medium rare, I think that's got some leeway.
Yeah.
I've got a cousin who asks for the manager,
oh god, yeah, that's rude.
The time,
that's
dude,
rude
all the time. I'm like, man, it's embarrassing sometimes,
Yeah, I would. What the hell just happened? Oh my god, my cat's terrorizing me today. Yeah, I don't even know what he just did. I think he just tried to jump on my desk and ate shit. So pets with the zoomies, y'all understand. So I think that if it's become a regular thing where when you're talking about your cousin, you're like, oh yeah, this happens a lot.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
That's okay, so you're being rude. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that's the line, right? Where it's oh god, we're going out to eat with Johnny. We're gonna meet the whole restaurant tonight.
But otherwise, I don't find myself sending stuff back almost ever. Maybe it's because I'm not a super picky eater. I get if you're allergic to stuff or if you eat pickles or something, right? You send it back. But
definitely,
I like almost anything, so I always just eat it.
I don't think I've ever sent back a dish, to be honest, because I don't know. Most of the time when I order something, my order comes out right. Sometimes I might forget the side of ranch, but that's it's hey, sorry, can I get the side of ranch?
The side of ranch,
right. And I'm yeah.
Do you have preferences on ranch?
Oh, dude, I would go ahead and say that I'm a ranch connoisseur or a ranch
connoisseur.
Snob.
What's your favorite ranch and your least favorite?
So I generally don't like anything that is store bought. Most of the ranches,
the worst.
Yeah,
dude.
They're terrible. They're really, really bad. So I generally will whip it up at home from scratch. I'll look up recipes on the internet and kind of mishmash and get my seasoning and combinations just right.
Yeah.
I would say that restaurants, like for example, like Hop Dotty, they have a good ranch. They have a nice ranch, but you can tell it's not a store-bought ranch. Like they make it in house.
Right.
They make it
Right.
because the store-bought ranch, it just tastes like bad.
I don't know what it is. Yeah. There's some
like, this
there's some
isn't
off
ranch.
flavor about it.
Yeah, they just don't get their mixing ratios correct or something with the ingredients. Something that's not
what about
right.
Chili's?
Dude, I haven't been to
get
Chili's in a
ranch
hot minute. I could not comment
Chili's
on
ranch is really good.
the ranch quality of Chili's.
What about some of the wing places? Buffalo Wild Wings, Wingstop?
I actually do like Buffalo Wild Wings Ranch and Wingstop. Decent. Yep. I actually like the blue cheese a lot at Wingstop, but not so much at Wild Wings.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know the difference between those, but yeah, man, if I get that tinge of that bottled ranch and it's at a restaurant, I'm like, geez, man, what are you guys even doing here?
It's like, come on, guys. Like, really, we can't whip up some ranch back there. It's like buttermilk and like I don't remember. It's like
if I do ranch at home, I at least do the packet, the Hidden Valley.
Yeah,
packet.
The Hidden Valley packet can be good. Yep, it can. Yep.
But you know, again, ranch connoisseur, I could drink the stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the win, right? But what's funny is the Hidden Valley bottle kind of sucks. The packet is good.
Yes, the Hidden Valley bottles does suck.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah. I have found
packet's amazing.
One bottle that's decent, which is Ken's. They make like the steak sauce stuff generally. Their ranch is okay, but it's more of a salad ranch than like a pizza or a chicken ranch. Yeah, like a dipping ranch. Yeah. There's a difference between a dressing ranch and a dipping ranch.
Most definitely.
I think we've identified this.
Do a taste test. I think the salad ranch is a little bit tangier.
We should do that. We should do that one. Yeah, we should go get a bunch of different ranches and do a taste test.
Dude, I'm like passionate about ranch. Actually, that is. People are like, "What are your hobbies?" Man. You know, I'm like, yeah, I do this podcast.
Ranch.
And I eat ranch. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's incredible. Yeah, TBD on the ranch episode, but that's a strong idea. I like it. I support that.
Now you got me thinking about ranch.
I know, right? So while you ponder ranch, I'll take us into today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about Meta and the supercomputer that they are building. It's been all over Twitter and on a bunch of the tech news sites. It even made some of the major networks a little bit here and there, but basically Meta is building a big bad AI supercomputer. It's going to be the fastest supercomputer in the world when it is finished, and I'm going to put it behind us here on the screen. The stats for this thing are insane. Let me jump over to this page here. It is going to be able to train AI models with more than 1 trillion parameters on data sets as large as an exabyte. And so in scale, that is equivalent to 36,000 years of high quality video. So 36,000 years of high quality video. So not just the time of the video, but high quality.
The actual, the quality
so I'm assuming
of the picture, right?
Like 720 and up, right? Like, HD minimum, right?
Wow.
So, if we take a look.
A few years ago, we were still using USBs that were 16 gigs.
Exactly. If we take a look at some of these numbers here in the cluster, the AI research supercluster phase 1, they're using the 6080 NVIDIA A100 GPUs, which is a step up from the V100 that they were using prior. The bulk storage is 175 petabytes of flash storage. That is a 1 petabyte. 1 petabyte is 1,000 gigabytes or terabytes, and 1,000 gigabytes is 1 terabyte. So
how many petabytes was it?
175. Is an incredibly large amount of storage. And it's going to be operating on a 200 gigabyte per second InfiniBand network, which is incredible speeds. I think actually that increased. I gotta find. I found it here somewhere. I think it was actually going to be up to like 1,600 gigabytes a second on the network, which is outrageous speeds.
I don't know, but have you seen my HP laptop that
Yeah,
I'm working on right now? Though?
You're just zooming,
it's pretty
right?
fast, dude.
Yeah. But it's crazy. So, I mean, this is a really interesting, production for not just Meta, but also NVIDIA is the partner here supplying the GPUs. And they're going to surpass Microsoft's OpenAI system, which has 10,000 GPUs. Meta's is planning on 16,000 GPUs to be implemented into the supercluster.
So what's the implication for this kind of like fast computer, right? Like, like back in the when the space race was happening, right? There are all these images of rooms filled with computers, right? And obviously the analogy is always that, or not the analogy, but rather the story is that we've advanced so fast. And I guess big room computers kind of went out of date for a while, but they've come back recently as the world runs on these supercomputers, right? So what is like the article explains? Well, why don't you explain some of the like implications for the fast computer?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, this thing is, like you said, this is a big computer. I mean, this isn't a facility with staff and dedicated personnel to operating, maintaining, and overseeing it. It is big. It is large. And this is. I think it's almost unfair to call it a computer at this point, right?
Like, everyone's like, oh, it's a supercomputer. Like, okay, well, like, what does that actually mean? This is running. This could it's not doing the typical things that a computer or laptop would do, right?
No,
like, this is,
no. I mean, this thing is
strictly
using
algorithms, right?
Floating point algorithms, and it's so basically
made to do just like a couple specialized things.
And so,
but really well.
The basic idea here is this is going to be used for machine learning, right? It's going to be used to train AIs. It's large language learning. So the brief explanation here that I'm pulling from The Verge is machine learning requires less accuracy than the tasks put to traditional supercomputers. So an AI supercomputer, which is a new kind of branding, can carry out more calculations per second rather than their, brethren. So when Meta says, we're building the world's fastest AI supercomputer, it's not a direct comparison to, some of the other supercomputers that you see. And that's where it starts to get into floating point arithmetic, right? So the way that these computers do mathematics, floating point arithmetic it's an extremely useful way for making very large and very small numbers, like doing the calculations for those. The floating point in question is the decimal point, which floats between significant figures. So I'm not a mathematician. I'm actually awful at math. The degree of accuracy deployed in floating point calculations can be adjusted based on different formats, and the speed of most supercomputers is calculated using what is known as a 64-bit floating point operation. But AI calculations require less accuracy. Don't ask me why. AI supercomputers are often measured in a 32 or even 16-bit format. So one's operating at a much more accurate state, like a data-driven supercomputer that's maybe analyzing data, spitting out, answers to formulas or trying to solve for formulas, something along those lines. Whereas with an AI supercomputer, it's not trying to give you the answer to a question. It's trying to teach. It's powering these AI to learn and absorb data, right?
Yeah, and it's just it's compiling the human data, right? So I'd imagine it's a lot simpler than these complex. Well, simple in some ways, more complex than others, right? Like the algorithms are obviously incredibly complex, and the data we have is organic data, and it's complex data, but it sounds like the precision is not not as much precision is needed. And I mean, how complex could I be? I'm just scrolling Facebook videos,
Yeah, exactly. And so, the thing is that's exactly what the AI is doing too. It is combing through those videos as well.
Yeah, this is the space race for technology.
It is, and these these AIs are basically being taught how to be moderators, content moderators. So there's the possibility for content moderation across all of Meta's platforms. So, Horizon, Oculus, the Facebook, Instagram, all of their products, right, that host video content or content creation.
If you just think about that content across all the platforms, across however many billions of customers they have, right?
Yep. And
Or
billions
users
of
rather,
videos.
and billions of videos
Yep.
multiplied by billions of minutes and seconds,
Yep.
and comments and live video and just posts that aren't video, just pictures and such. That's a massive undertaking.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And I mean, that's just one facet of this project, the RSC for Meta. It's also, being geared towards introducing new augmented reality experiences, improving speech recognition amid background noise, and expanding the ability to process language, accents. I mean, they're training these AIs to really be able to not just process information, but understand information and to do it better.
Right. I was reading one of the examples from the article. Let me see if I can find it here. I thought it was very interesting. Yeah, so it says in the past 4 years, we've seen a leapfrog for language. So if we just narrow this down to language recognition, we've gone from just recognizing speech from the algorithm being able to say, oh, this person's saying cheese, right? The word cheese, right? But then now being able to put it in the context of like cheese and pizza, right? So now you can think of like when you're typing a Google email and it like predictively predicts or predicts what you're going to say, right? And you just press tab and it fills it in for you, right? It's compiling billions of people's data across the world for that context. And then now, we've advanced past that where the algorithm, in this article, it says, we can take cheese out of the context of something like pizza, and then also differentiate if a photographer is saying, okay, everybody say cheese, we're taking a photo. Same word, but now the algorithm can understand all the context around it. And so that's kind of scary, actually.
It is. And, we can definitely dive into kind of the ethical and moral debate around these AI, because there are some interesting and, unsettling studies and experiences that have already been discovered and are being studied and worked on in the field. But I think the one thing here that's also important to understand is that unlike the past AI research projects that Meta's done, or formerly Facebook, it leveraged only open source and publicly available data sets. This new computer, or supercluster, is going to make use of user-generated content. So it's not just going for open source and publicly available things that I guess have been created for the sake of machine learning or whatever. They're going to be,
now, if you've posted a video on Facebook, you are subject to the algorithm. And this computer.
Or Meta, or any of Meta's products, data. Instagram, whatever. So
but not only do they have the data of like where you've posted it, what you've posted, kind of the subject, but now they're scanning the text. They're probably scanning the environment that the video is taken in. So let's say it's like your child's birthday party or something, right? Everybody's singing. This algorithm is literally going through the song and saying, what is the context of each of these words? Like, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Aaron,
and what's the pattern? What's the pattern in connection to other videos of a similar? It's connecting all these dots, like
and then to have that data and say, oh, this happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and happened at this time at this birthday, right? All at the end of the day, to put it on your profile and say, this is what this person is going to do next. And this is we can predict now with all this data what's essentially seeing the future. And that's maybe I made a leap there, but it's scary to me, man.
I don't know if it's that much of a leap. I mean, this supercluster is going to be like we're saying here, by 2022, mid 2022, it'll be able to carry out more calculations per second than some of the world's fastest high performance computers. So it's going to be
anything at NASA, anything at universities that run out,
unless there's some like hidden governmental stuff, which I'm sure there is, that's 50 floors below ground.
I would really hope, but the problem is, like, you probably used to be able to say that about the government maybe 50, 100 years ago, right? But now, like, the private sector and business and technology companies specifically has so far surpassed
Yeah.
generally the talent.
Yeah.
Unfortunate to say, like it's surpassed the talent in the government.
And I think also beyond that is, obviously raw talent, 100% agree, but also organization and alignment
I'm
and
sure there's less
strategy.
bureaucracy.
Yes, way less bureaucracy. Well put.
companies.
Yeah. I mean, we know what it's like to work for a corporation, and, it's all about being, working with agility. Like, what are we working towards? How are we going to do it? Forecasting and planning and executing on that goal. And so when it comes to this kind of stuff, these large scale productions of a very complicated, machine, the private sector is going to win.
Yeah.
And the governments most likely are going to refer or contract private sector companies to assist with building their own version of something like this. Because like you said, the expertise is there, not just in terms of actually, making it happen, but making it happen,
Right.
to say the same thing in two different ways. And I mean, there's a lot of implications. I think we can move on to the implications.
Did you ever watch the movie on Netflix, Don't Look Up?
Yes, I did. I watched it recently.
Okay. So in that movie, there's a lot to talk about in that movie. I liked it, actually.
I thought it was funny.
All-star cast. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Now there's the one part where the billionaire gentleman who, the movie's about a comet hurtling towards Earth, and they're trying to essentially mine the comet for this technology,
for the materials
to use in their phones, smartphones and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, we'll know how everybody dies, right? Like they know that their algorithms predict how people die.
Yes. And it's
I see
so smart that some of the ways people die, they don't even know what it means.
They don't know, like humans can't interpret it, right?
Yes.
But the algorithm spits out, which I think is not much different than what an algorithm like this is doing today at a much lower scale, but still spitting out things that are like, okay, well, that statement doesn't make sense to us right now because the algorithm is not trained enough. But the algorithm was smart enough to at least spit out that statement.
Analyze something.
Yeah, and spit it out in the context of the words around it. And so I don't think we're that many years off from an algorithm being able to, spit out what am I going to do next week, right? Or like, what am I going to do next month? And then as they get better and better, how will I die? And hopefully a long time. But
I agree with you 100%. And, going in line with that thought process is we are creatures of habit. Yeah. Human beings, fundamentally, we are creatures of habit. It's comfort, it's safety, it's, there's a lack of risk, right? When your routine is something that you do all the time. And so that makes us very easy for, quantifying in the sense of a computer or an algorithm. And, this has been talked about a lot, especially with, the rise of cryptocurrency and Web3, metaverse, and obviously the revolution that has been online shopping and purchasing, right? Very soon, next 5 years, most likely drone deliveries are going to start happening. They already do in some cities, not super widespread, but slowly over time. And I don't know. Have we talked about this on the podcast? I think we may have in one of the first episodes. Right now you refer to your home device. I don't want to say her name because then she's going to activate, but you refer to your home device and say, hey, order me this. And if you have it set up, it'll just order it for you. And boom, next day you got some TP at your house or what have you. Right. In the future, these algorithms, these AI, whatever these systems are, they're going to know so much about you because of your past history and the information that you've, posted online or that has been aggregated for you. You can say, hey, buy me a toaster. And it's going to pick a toaster in your price range with your favorite color or what it assumes to be your favorite color based on past purchases. And it's going to get it to you as fast as possible. Right. So no longer, it takes out a human interaction. You don't need to go online and then look for the right toaster that's in your price point, that has a style that you like and a color that you like, that's not going to take forever to ship. It's just going to do all that for you based on what it knows about you.
I would even take it one step. We have talked about this for sure. And maybe we're saying the same things verbatim. I don't know. But taking it one step further, like I would hope it's only based on your past purchases, but in fact, the algorithm will be based on all the videos you've watched, all the images you've ever looked at or clicked on, anything you've ever interacted with to say, oh, well, this person's taste is, modern day farmhouse chic. And in like a pale blue color or something, right? Maybe you haven't even bought anything in that color, but it already knows.
And that's also, and it's also to say, these devices might have very, high powered cameras in them that scan your kitchen and say, well, what fits in the color scheme? You know? Like, oh, you got a nice, like, we got like a green and then a backwash. Okay, well, maybe let's put in like a, this color here. It might work. You know what I'm saying? So,
and where did they get that data, Aaron? It was from the birthday video from Wisconsin, where you're singing to your cousin.
It all comes back to Wisconsin.
And now they know that you want a pale blue toaster.
Oh, goddamn. But, so there's definitely exciting things that can, be implied from this. I mean, first of all, this is a monumental step for humanity in terms of AI and training AI and all of that stuff and building something of this computing power. We've never been here before. And as you said earlier, Mitchell, right? Like when computers first came out, they're real big. And now they're in the palm of your hand, the personal computer. And so, it's only a matter of time before a supercluster like this goes from the size of a complex, what's the word I'm looking for? An industrial park, right? Like a big office space down to a floor, down to a terminal with quantum computing and all kinds of things, and so it's that cycle, right? That exponential cycle, that exponential growth in this industry. It's really, it's something to behold. I'll tell you that. It's definitely it's wild.
Or we find that there's maybe there's not value in it's making the computer smaller, and then we take over the human space to put computers there. Instead, we just plug into some universe, and we don't even need to live in this space.
This was the conversation, and that's the thing is like it's some sci-fi stuff. But listen, if somebody comes out and says, we can make a Dyson sphere, we can harvest the power of the sun, we can build a craft that everyone can upload to, and we can travel from star to star and live in a virtual utopia. I mean, dude, I gotta get my pen and paper out and start writing a screenplay. Like,
dude, AI, I'm it's surprising the advances it's made. I remember seeing a post, it could have been on LinkedIn or something, Facebook, maybe 4 years ago. It said AI is like teen sex.
Interesting. Okay.
Everybody says they're doing it. And by everybody, I think this post was talking about companies. Like everybody says they're doing it. But in reality, nobody really knows what it is. And that has those are the advancements we've made though, with people like Meta and I'm sure Microsoft and Amazon. Like the AI is real and it's here. Like 10 years ago, we were like, this it's still so far out. Like we might have robots that take over one day, but now with this kind of technology, these algorithms, I would say, know more than we know about ourselves now at this point. And it's only growing, right? Like what does it look like with exponential growth in 5 years?
100%. And, not even just from an algorithmic perspective, too, with these computers, but I don't know if you saw the viral videos of Amica, the humanoid robot from Engineered Arts at CES. Did you see any of those videos?
Let me Google it real quick.
Yeah, no, they're crazy. So I've got it pulled up behind us here. And Amica was really entertaining to watch. She understood humor. She was able to, clap back at some people. Like some guy asked her on a date. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she gave him the business. Like it was funny. It was really cool. and you could tell it like wasn't scripted. Like there was a little bit of a delay between what she would hear and then what she would say, it was being processed. And, someone asked a question like, are you going to take over the world with Skynet, this, that, and the other? And, Amica basically says like, I'm not human. I don't feel like humans do. I process information and generate responses. And, I'm here to assist human beings and work for human beings. Like, she said she doesn't have any desires. She doesn't have any. Exactly. And that's funny because I think as human beings, we forget that what drives us most of the time is desire, right? In one form or another, desire to eat, desire to drink, sleep, love, work.
Oh, so you're saying that this human, so Amica, the humanoid, would stop short of doing anything where it required its own free will, because it just it doesn't have that programmed in.
It doesn't have free will. It doesn't currently have free will. And I'm sure that somebody out there, because humanity loves to be God, right? We all want to be God. We're obsessed with the idea, right?
That's pretty great. Wow.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be?
We're obsessed with the idea of, and maybe I won't even say God. Maybe I'll just say like all powerful, right? Like we're obsessed with the idea of creating and creating something one in our own image, and feeling that power of creating something magnificent, right? I mean, that's what's driven all of the invention throughout history, in my opinion, is to create something never before seen, to create something that'll change the world. Like that is a desire, that is a human desire. And
where I think like let's take this Amica for a second, say the program was, or the machine learning, the algorithm programmed into it was that the robot's function was to improve itself.
Yeah.
Now, I think that after learning a certain amount, the robot would start to assume to improve itself, it would need to, keep gathering information. The more information it gathers, I think the more it would become like a human and keep desiring more. I think that if the program had in it, or if the program had written in it that the robot needs to improve itself, I think that would fill the void of desire, and that's where I think you get that dangerous slippery slope
going down that road. Yeah,
like, and I'll just kill humans because that will improve my
standing and also the earth, right? And
right.
Yeah, and that's like the classic sci-fi debate, right? Like,
and what's the AI is getting better though, like, and so
and the thing is though is like, it's about understanding, I guess, in the coding and what the creators are, how it's written, right? Like how the computer itself, the AI, is understanding its purpose, understanding its code, interpreting its code, and going through that process, right? Because that's definitely dangerous, right? If you put in the code, always be learning, always be improving, self-system checks and validating data and compiling data, then you're probably going to end up at a point where it's coming to its own conclusions, right? And you want that because it's smart, but then you also don't want it because it could be bad. So I think it's all about that nuance in the coding language, and also heavy monitoring from the creators. Like they are on top of all of this data that's being processed. They're reviewing it and watching it. And a while back, the Facebook AIs that had developed their own shorthand for communication. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, so it made the news, and a lot of people, there was a lot of hype around it. There was a little bit of panic, but it wasn't like they'd created their own language to be like, we're going to kill all humans. Basically, they'd created like a shorthand to query each other for data. So
that was shorter than writing a full query or something.
Yeah, and they'd adapted the English language into a query that they could understand. So like, AI A would ask AI, I forget their names, would ask AI B, but, and then like, I forget the words they used, but they were using English, and it was just like a sequence of, English words that made no sense in terms of how we would understand it. But it's basically asking one AI for information about something, the other AI is saying here or no, or, whatever. But these are interesting things, right? Like, oh, wow, it just took English language and turned it into a shorthand for data query.
It's a different language at that point, right? Because you're using the words in a completely different way,
other context.
Right. It's like using a Spanish word completely out of context for a different purpose. Right?
Exactly.
That's a different language.
Yeah. And so, like you said, I mean, it's an interesting, field, and it's advancing so quickly, just like all this stuff, right? Like the metaverse, Web 3.0, the AI tech is on that exponential climb now. There's funding behind it. People, are working on this stuff. So it's just so crazy when you take a step back and look at all these things happening in tandem. I mean, we are crossing into like the next, I think we're crossing into the next like revolutionary age, like industrial
revolution.
Technological, the next age. And hey man, that means that, we're probably in for a golden age soon, hopefully, where we get some, miraculous mind that's gonna, cut through, like we had Steve Jobs and we've had Bill Gates and, we've got some really brilliant people out there. And then all the unsung heroes that have made massive, leaps and bounds in the field. I think we're probably due for another great mind really soon. That's going to just catapult all of these technologies to the next level,
You know what comes after golden ages, though?
Yeah, exactly. Rome falls. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually a war
Yeah,
is what happens.
exactly. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We're kind of due for one of those.
We're due for one of those, man. So what in the article they give this example too. So back to the AI. Of the AI being able to write fictional work.
Yeah.
And so that is something that really stood out to me. Like, if you can compile all the data out there for your field or fictional, let's say it's vampires or something,
sure,
and then you can spit out new content that you think people will like based on what's popular already.
They're doing the stuff with music too.
Right, yeah. It's the question is like, well, I think the question goes down to like what makes us human, and like why can we create those things, and why do we like them in the first place? It's kind of a philosophical thing, but once the AI can start doing that, I question the value of things like new music and new works of writing. If the AI can continue to put out a podcast that's like ours, like why better than ours?
Well, that's because assuming that ours is like data. Even good. No.
right. But a podcast that is based off of already what people like.
How do you compete?
How do you compete? And then you could also train an AI to make something that's different than the status quo. And then that's how. I mean,
Yeah. I think that, and that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, people are definitely experimenting with that, right? AIs in writing and storytelling and music, in art. And I think that it'll be interesting to, see where that goes. I think that it might even help us clarify your question of what does it mean to be human, right? I think as we watch an intelligent life, because honestly it is, learn art and writing and all this stuff, I think it'll help clarify our own position as a conscious being, a sentient being. So honestly, I mean, it's a tough conversation. It's not tough, but it's deep, and I think it spins off in a lot of different directions very quickly. So it's hard to kind of boil it down into like a single thought. I think
Agreed. Yeah,
at least where I'm at with it right now, it's like, oof, that's a tough one.
If you were in manufacturing and you were worried about robots taking over your job, I would say if you're an author, you should be.
If you're a musician, you should be a little worried.
Musician, you should be worried.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because the thing is that, everything boils down to numbers. It all boils down to numbers. I mean, music is very heavily based in math. And writing, I mean, is based in math. Like, look at haikus, I mean, that is a mathematical formula, right? So, and if you can then, boil down the different aspects of writing into a quantifiable formula, which you can.
Well, I mean, there are only, what is it? There are only like 7 or 10 core stories. That every fictional work
kind of revolves around.
Right.
So what if,
and because those are the only stories that humanity, I guess, relates with, and of course there can be new things as society progresses, but who's to say that the AI won't come up with those new works of art, right?
And so I think the conversation then leads my mind to, can we successfully use AI technology to augment our existence? I don't think it needs to be a replacement.
Right. That's the hope, right?
Exactly.
That's what we'd hope all AI does.
Yeah. But I think like that's really the conversation is, AI can be used to augment what we already have, not replace it. Right.
Well, unless you're in a factory
that's not AI.
That's true. That's true.
That's just highly intelligent robots that are just programmed to do what they do. But yeah, I know what you mean in that sense too, though.
or I guess like the people who maybe the ones who have to like sift through content to say whether it's like good or bad. If AI can do that, right, that's essentially a job replacement there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing too is also we've gone through industrial technical revolutions before, and different jobs are created, different things come out of it. So yeah, maybe robots take over some work in factories. Well, that'll open up new positions for people doing something else, and inevitably when one door closes, another opens, right? At the risk of sounding corny. But
what people hate to hear, but this is this is such a political issue, like the idea of jobs going away. But this is literally the story of humanity. That technological innovation breeds more jobs and different opportunities. Yep. A lot of opportunities close because of it, but a lot of new ones are created, and people just evolve over generations.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, like, let's be real, like our most powerful asset as human beings is our brain. So, if over the course of time, as we continue to progress, it would only make sense that we do less and less manual labor and more mental labor, right?
Right.
Our strongest asset is our brain. We're just going to continue to leverage that over the years as things progress.
Then I would say less and less manual labor, then less and less mental labor as well.
Right.
Because we can't really even fathom it right now, but there will come a day where the algorithms and the machines will be able to do the mental work for us and create new softwares and technologies and etc.
Yeah, but then also, I think, it's obviously fiction or whatever, but, I'm going to risk sounding like a sweaty nerd, but look at Marvel, look at Jarvis and Tony, right? Like, this was a very intelligent, highly sophisticated AI system. I mean, it's science fiction how advanced Jarvis was, but that is not necessarily out of view for us now. But there was a relationship there. You know what I mean? There was a relationship between Tony and Jarvis. There was a symbiotic nature. They were a team. They worked together. And then after Jarvis's passing, which was. That was a moment for me, man. When dude, like Jarvis was a badass. Jarvis was cool. He was funny. Yeah. Like he had a personality, and
he was funny.
And that's the thing, right?
And Vision, who also passed. So.
Exactly. But it's so cool that it's like this. And once he went to Vision, then Tony got what was her name? Friday. And so it's cool though that like you can kind of start to get a teaser of what that kind of relationship might look like between a person and a computer, because right now it's a totally one-sided interaction, right? I control the computer spits back information at me, whether that's a video, an article, an equation, whatever. I'm telling the computer, give me this, and it's saying yes or no, like yes I can give that to you, or no I cannot. But instead, down the line, it could be like, hey, computer, I'm gonna call my computer Quincy. Hey, Quincy, what do you think I should do? At work, I'm kind of dealing with this, and this is kind of like a roadblock I'm running into, and blah 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 blah. Well, Quincy might be smart enough to be like, okay, well, you could have a conversation with it. You could really have you
tried this?
Have you thought about
spit out some questions that say like, have you troubleshooted with this? Troubleshooted with that?
Yeah, or maybe it's emotionally intelligent too. Like maybe the computer's like, you need to stop beating yourself up. You're doing good. It depends on, like I said, how we code this language into the computers. How we develop. Do we keep them cold and isolated like Amica, or do we really strive to develop them into something with a personality and empathy and morals and ethics? Which leads me to the next part of our conversation.
Real quick on that. I don't think that's that difficult.
No.
Maybe to make it if you wanted the AI to truly say those things out of its own sort of volition, I think that would be difficult. But to program something to say something empathetically, I think what you could do is you could just analyze a certain amount of data about your person and say, oh, Mitchell's feeling down today, or Mitchell walked in the door this way, and it's analyzing that, and it could spit out a statement
on him. Yeah.
Right. There are only so many ways to organize words in an empathetic way, right?
Yeah, of course.
Certainly less than infinity.
Yeah.
Like there might only be a couple thousand ways to do that. And so when I walk in the door, it says, oh, was everything okay today, Mitchell?
Yeah.
And it's said in an empathetic way. Like, I don't think it's that.
That just sounded fucking terrifying, to be honest. Is everything okay, Mitchell?
I would not be the voice of the Siri or the Alexa. I'll tell you that. But.
No, I agree. And I think it's also what you said before, right? With like the, Amica over time, if there's like a self-improvement protocol, as your AI, like if you have a personal one, gets to know you and your mannerisms and over all of this compiled over the course of, let's say, 5-10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then at a certain point, it's not referring back to that empathy script or that empathy code. It knows you.
Right.
And then at that point, it's just interacting with you. It's not learning about you to, it's developed a relationship, right? So that's like, I think that's an interesting point where, like, down the line, I would not be surprised if there's like AI psychology course in colleges. And you know what I mean? Like this, yeah, like
Colleges are still around.
if colleges are, we don't just plug in like the Matrix and say, I know Kung Fu,
But you know, it begs the question of like, how much of what we do and say is just learned the same way an AI would learn it, or even, I guess, use the word programmed, right?
Yeah.
That where
the brain is an organic computer.
Down,
I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If I see somebody who's down, I'm going to ask in a way that I've learned from other people that says, hey, how are you doing today? Like, is everything okay? Like, you sound down.
But that's also based on your personality. You know what I mean? Like, some people aren't empathetic. Some people don't give a shit if you're down, So it depends on, this what is the personality that we're going to prescribe to these AI? And is it going to be a blanket across the board? Is there going to be kind of open format AI where
could I boost my empathy score on my on my robot?
Exactly. The custom ordered AI. Is there going to be a baseline? Like, hey, you can't just get like an open source AI and train it to be a fucking evil piece of shit. Like, you know what I mean? So, I think, it's interesting. And I mean, obviously we can riff on this forever. So I want to direct the conversation over here to, I'm going to put it up behind us. The powerful AI technique that led to clashes at Google and fierce debate in tech, and here's why. That's the title of the article, and obviously, as always, we will link all of these materials in the comments or the description. And to kind of summarize, in 2000, the 2005 Buncefield oil factory explosion in England, the AI that reacted to those images elicited a excited response. And this was ridiculous, finding for Margaret Mitchell. And down here are the images. So the AI sees the first image, the second image, and responds, "This is such a great view." And then the third image, which says, it actually has text in there showing the explosion, saying first blast shortly after 6 a.m. The computer then says, "This is awesome." Now, that is interesting on many levels, and this is definitely a pretty intense article. There's a lot of detail in here. Now, one thing I want to point out is in the middle picture, when it says this is a great view, it's possible that the AI just couldn't tell that this was a fire. Now, if you just look at the sky, I mean, it is a very dramatic sky, objectively
now,
not knowing.
This comes back to that context thing, right? Because seeing just the image, I would wager a lot of humans would also say, oh, I'd put together those colors in the sky and say, okay, in my head, that looks nice.
Because the middle picture, 100%, I agree. Like, not knowing that this is a fire, I'd be like, oh wow, that's a very dramatic sky right there. Wow, that looks kind of it's pretty,
And then also, again, without context, like the AI, I'm not sure how this one was trained in particular, but if you see that it is a good view in the sense that you can see a lot, you're not obstructed by things, right? So it's like that nuance in the way the words are used, because if you're behind a building or behind a car or a sign, that would not be a great view, right? But it's putting together the context, I believe, of, oh, we can see the whole sky. It's this set of colors. And I associate that with like a good sunset or a good sunrise or whatever it is. And like this, and I can see a lot of it. So this is a great view is like what it spit out. But I would not want this AI to be like informing, I don't know, the police department or something, or like, so
it's definitely, again, it's interesting, right? Like, and again, like this AI system doesn't have a system of moral or ethics or a personality per se, right? It's taking in data, like you said. It's like, oh, I can connect the pattern of this sky to other patterns of the sky that, are beautiful, right? or look nice. And so I think the really disturbing part, though, was when there's the image of the screen and it can analyze the text saying first blast shortly after 6 a.m. and the computer says, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you're like, okay, hold on a second. So,
Right.
The conversation that was started around this, and again, there's a lot of detail here in this article. It's a very interesting article. If you guys want to, dig into it on your own time, but this is one thing here that I want to address. Is one of the harms of these large language models that are kind of powerful and popular in the AI world right now is researchers asked OpenAI, which is Microsoft's unit, GPT-3, to complete a sentence containing the word Muslims. It turned to violent language more than 60% of the time, introducing words like bomb, murder, assault, and terrorism. And that is not good. That is really, 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 really not good. So the article goes on to say that left unchallenged, these models, these AI models, are effectively a mirror of the internet, the good, the bad, the mundane, the disturbing. And there's a potential to spread stereotypes, hate speech, misinformation, toxic narrative. And, that's where, the people that are running these AI really need to come in and start to set, like we said, these protocols around truthfully kind of creating an ethics system, I think, for these consciousnesses as they evolve, right?
This is the same issue or really conversation around when you build the metaverse or you build the algorithms for self-driving cars or whatever it is. When you're building an AI system or a metaverse system, right, you're building it from the ground up, learning off of material that's already out there, so it's prone to continuing on stereotypes and patterns, good or bad. And so this is like, we're fighting the good fight here, Aaron.
Yeah.
Like these are conversations that like we have to talk about it, because if the same group of people builds, this AI and then the other algorithms and platforms, right, the world continues on, the negatives of the world continue on in the same way that they exist today, just in digital form. So it's really the conversation that I'm glad we're having it, and I think more people should know it.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely something people need to think about because like you mentioned, right? Like Google's AI system, in the case of Gmail, the autocomplete. It's a scale. The scale is nearly 2 billion internet users. I mean, these things are already a part of our life, whether we want to, really accept and have these conversations about where they're going and what's important. And the thing too is that they are difficult to understand, right? Like skimming these articles is much harder than skimming an article about an NFT. Reading these articles and internalizing this information is much more of a thought process than reading an article about Microsoft's acquisition of Blizzard. This is heady stuff. I mean, this is cutting edge tech. This is the power that these people have going forward is no joke. The engineers working on these projects, the companies spearheading and funding these projects, it's very serious stuff. So, I think, go ahead.
And I was just going to say that, and not that those other things like the acquisition of Blizzard or NFTs, not to say that doesn't affect people's lives.
No, not at all. Not at all.
People's lives. But this kind of thing, this is going to affect what videos you see, what content comes up on your phone, what you interact with, like how enraged you are about things. It's going to influence like what your views are and how you interact with the world.
And it might be picking your AI, it might be picking your toaster. It might be picking your toaster. It might be picking your wardrobe one day.
It's a lot closer to home, I guess, is what I'm trying to.
No, and you're absolutely right. And that, just to clarify too, I'm not negating, the complexities of this massive acquisition, Microsoft and Blizzard. To your point, Mitchell, it's more so that these are, this is a lot of math and computer science, and a lot of people, they go and read an article like this and they're like, I don't care about all this crazy shit. Just give me the cliff notes.
That's mostly me. Yeah.
See, I go ahead and I read this whole thing because I find it really freaking interesting. But that's okay, right? Like, at the end of the day, if we can have these articles where you can skim and get a general understanding of what's happening and keep your finger on the pulse, that's enough for us, and hopefully people to have this conversation with each other. Because I think in my final thought to wrap up here is we do need to put some, focus on ethics and understanding, because, the internet, as said in this article, there's some disturbing shit on there. And the computer doesn't, the brain, the AI brain doesn't understand that, the hate speech and misinformation and toxic narrative, et cetera, is quote unquote, a bad thing, to make it simple, right? It's just connecting patterns. Mm-hmm. So, if that 60%, in the scenario containing the word Muslim, why is it 60%? Where is it analyzing these things, and what can we do to expand its understanding, so that, like you said, right, instead of just cheese and then pizza and then the photographer, right, like we've gone through that kind of progression of association, allowing the AI to, understand this is, hate speech, this is racism, this is stereotyping, this is toxic behavior, and then, pitting or zooming out and understanding the entirety of the Muslim culture, right? And understanding that's just, a portion of the outlook of certain people on the internet, not a pattern of truth, or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I would say it's just deeper level coverage of United States media.
Exactly.
Of that, right? And it's unfortunate that, like if you're an algorithm and you're trying to associate a certain word ethnicity with maybe, let's say, terrorism, right? Because of the amount of content that's out there, it's there's not a lot of content about, I'm Vietnamese, not a lot of content about Vietnamese people and terrorism together, right? Like,
so it's not going to associate those patterns,
right? And therefore won't be trained, and and then Vietnamese people are in the clear, but unfortunately, Muslim people are not.
And so that's something I think that it needs to be thought about, and obviously it is. How do we smarten these things up in a way that they can still learn and grow and understand these things and associate patterns, but how can they filter the information better and come to better conclusions? Like 60% using that word in a sentence with those other words, that should not be the margin there. That's like over the top. Like, that's not cool. That's not good.
And I realized I was talking about Muslims as an ethnicity, but say Christianity rather. We're talking religion here, not ethnicity, but right. So
and I think it also, it's like you said earlier in the conversation, I think this will be my last thought here, is how different is it to human beings? I mean, if you're brought up in a household that tells you, that shapes your worldview one way, and then you get out in the world and realize it's another, or you have a change in a worldview, I think that's kind of what, I'm getting at here. I think that's maybe a more concise way of saying what I'm trying to say, is we have to teach AI to understand worldview, right? So to analyze all of these different patterns, put it all in context, right? And so I think we're probably a ways off from that, but not too far.
Yeah. Well, I think we should go ahead and keep it open, man.
I think we're going to keep it open, and I'm sure we will be back on this topic, like most of our topics, as they continue to progress, because, man, stuff really is moving quick these days.
Yeah, it is. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Appreciate it, guys. See you on the next one.